It's 11:47 at night. You're at a restaurant with people you've known for 10 years. The bill lands on the table. Someone picks it up, slides it directly to you. No discussion. Everybody laughs. You put your card down. You don't say anything. But walking back to your car, something's off, and it has nothing to do with the money. It's that the joke assumed you owe them something. Like success has a tab running with the people who knew you before it. You didn't lose anything obvious. No falling out. No moment you could point to. You just quietly became someone they relate to differently. Here's what nobody tells you before you start building real wealth. The sacrifices don't end when the struggle ends. They change. Every level up, you give up something you weren't expecting to lose. And by the time you understand what the trade actually is, you've already made most of it. Go back 2.5 years. You have something going, not dramatically. The numbers are just moving. Your group is going away for the weekend. Same trip they do every year. This time you say no. Not because you can't afford it. You can. That's almost the strange part. You say no because there's something you need to close by Monday. And 3 days away would break the momentum you've spent 8 months building. They push back. You're obsessed. You need to switch off. And part of you wonders if they're right, because you don't have the language yet for what you're doing. Here's what's actually happening. Your friends are trading time for experiences. Completely valid. You're trading time for compounding. For something that will return in multiples. Not in a way you can post, but structurally. The sacrifice isn't missing the trip. The sacrifice is not being able to explain why. You close the deal on Monday, but now you're slightly outside the group in a way you can't name. And that gap, you don't go back to close it. 6 months later, you're sitting with someone you've been close to since you were teenagers. You tell him about a deal you just closed. He goes quiet. Then he says, "Must be nice." 2 words, but you hear everything in them. You change the subject. He does too. Neither of you names what just passed between you. This isn't jealousy, not exactly. His decision-making reality and yours are no longer the same. He's navigating rent, you're allocating capital, and when 2 people can't share the same anxieties, they slowly stop being able to share the same conversation. You still care about him. That part is real. But the loss isn't the friendship. The loss is that you can no longer be fully honest inside it. You edit yourself. You make success sound smaller than it is so the room stays comfortable. That editing becomes a habit. And habits become expensive when you carry them long enough. You now have assets, plural, a business with a team, a portfolio generating returns, 8 people on payroll. You are, technically, free. And then at 2:13 in the morning, your phone lights up. One of your largest clients is pulling out, not because of anything you did wrong. The market shifted. Standard business, you get up, you sit at the table, and you start running the numbers. What does this hit look like against cash flow? What does it mean for the team? This is what nobody explains before you get here. Passive income is real. But mental passivity becomes rarer as the thing you've built gets bigger. Your money keeps moving, so your mind does too. You sit there until 4 a.m., work through a plan, go back to bed. In the morning, your partner asks what you're thinking about. Nothing. More money, more control over your external life. And quietly, steadily, less peace inside it. There's a deal on the table. If it works, your net worth doubles, real numbers in writing. If it doesn't, you'd be fine. But the investors who came in because they trusted your judgment, they wouldn't be fine. 12 months ago, a bad decision cost you money. Now a bad decision costs other people. People who transferred real capital because they believed your thesis. That weight is categorically different. Here's what nobody says when they talk about getting rich. The fear doesn't disappear. It upgrades. Early on, fear of failure is fear of being poor. At this level, it's fear of something collapsing that other people relied on you to hold together. And that second fear is heavier. Not just financially, morally. You make the deal, it works. But in the 3 weeks between signing and confirmation, you sleep 4 hours a night. You are safer than you have ever been, and more exposed than you have ever been. At the same time, there's someone in your life who's been talking to you differently. A certain familiarity with what you own. Requests that started small and have been growing. You don't say anything. You're not sure. Then they ask. Real money. Enough that they wouldn't have asked 18 months ago. And you look at them across the table, and you realize you genuinely cannot tell. You cannot tell if this person is here because of who you are or because of what you can do. That's the cost. Not the relationship being over. The cost is not being able to see it clearly anymore. New relationships carry a question you can't always answer. Is this genuine or strategic? Old ones carry something worse. Was this always here, and you just couldn't see it before you had something worth having? You can't unknow what you know now. Some people call that growth. Some call it loss. It's both. You're somewhere your 22-year-old self would have stared at. The right address, the right account, the table that requires a conversation, not a reservation. And you sit there trying to remember what you thought this moment would feel like. Because you had an image of it. A version of yourself that arrived here. Lighter. More certain. Finally done. The person sitting at this table is not that person. Not in a bad way. But you would not fully recognize yourself from the beginning. Your 22-year-old self wanted to get there. The person you are now has to hold it. Grow it. Not become so consumed by protecting it that you forget why you started. That's a different psychological job, and it requires a different person. You don't get richer and stay the same. You can't. The version of you who started this was shaped by scarcity, by wanting, by being on the outside of the thing you're now on the inside of. That person was the engine, and the engine doesn't run the same when there's nothing left to prove to the person you were. You built the room, but the person who was hungry enough to build it, they don't live here anymore. Here is the honest version of what getting rich actually is. It is not a destination. It is a sequence of trades. At the beginning, comfort and consistency. Further in, belonging. The version of yourself that fits inside familiar rooms. Further still, the quiet mind. The trust that people want you, not what you own. And at the end, the identity of the person who is hungry enough to start. Wealth gives you real things. Leverage, options. Time, when you build it right. The ability to say no to things that cost too much. Those things are real. That freedom is real. But so is the trade. The people who build wealth without losing themselves didn't stumble into that. They decided in advance what wasn't for sale. Not for the next level, not for the number after that. Because wealth keeps offering you a next level, and every level has a price. The question is what you are willing to stop being to keep gaining more of it. And at some point, the most important financial decision you make isn't about an asset or a deal. It's about what you decide to protect that isn't on any balance sheet.